The year 1776 is famous for a political revolution in the Americas, but in that same year, a quiet Scottish professor named Adam Smith published a document that sparked an equally powerful economic revolution. Before Smith, the world operated under mercantilism. Governments believed that a nation's wealth was measured by how much gold and silver it had locked in its vaults. To get more, they slapped massive tariffs on imports, hoarded resources, and fought wars over colonial trade routes. Smith looked at this and said, "You've got it all wrong. Wealth isn't gold. Wealth is the annual produce of the land and labor of the society. In other words, wealth is what we produce and consume to make our lives better." Today, we're diving into the 5-volume masterpiece that invented modern economics. Smith opens his book with a simple question: how do we become more productive? His answer is the division of labor. He uses the famous example of a pin factory. If one man were to try and make a pin from scratch, drawing the wire, straightening it, cutting it, pointing it, and grinding the top, he might barely make 1 pin a day. He certainly couldn't make 20. But Smith observed a small factory where 10 men divided the work into about 18 distinct operations. One man draws out the wire, another straightens it, a third cuts it, and so on. Because of this specialization, those 10 men could produce upwards of 48,000 pins in a single day. Smith identifies 3 reasons why this works. Increase in dexterity. When you do one thing all day, you get really good at it. Saving time. You don't lose time moving from one tool to another or switching tasks. The invention of machines. When labor is simplified, it's easier for workers or engineers to invent machines to help do that specific task even faster. This specialization is why a modern economy can provide even the poorest person with a variety of goods. Shoes, bread, tools that a king 1,000 years ago couldn't dream of. This leads us to Smith's most famous and most controversial idea. If everyone is specializing, how do we make sure everyone gets what they need? Does the government need to tell the baker how much bread to bake? Smith says, no. The market organizes itself, and it does so through self-interest. He wrote, "It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. The baker doesn't give you bread because he loves you. He does it because he wants your money to buy shoes from the shoemaker. But to get your money, he has to make bread that is high quality and reasonably priced. This is the invisible hand. By looking out for ourselves, we are led as, if by an invisible hand, to provide value to others. In a free market, you can only get what you want by giving others what they want. It turns individual greed into a social good. So how does the invisible hand actually communicate? Through price, Smith explains that every good has a natural price. The cost of the labor, rent, and profits needed to make it, but the market price is determined by supply and demand. If a town has 10 hungry families but only 5 loaves of bread, the price of bread will skyrocket. This high price acts as a signal. It tells other bakers, hey, there's money to be made here. New bakers enter the market, the supply of bread increases, and the price eventually settles back down to its natural level. Conversely, if there's too much bread and no one is buying, the price drops. This tells bakers to stop wasting their time on bread and go bake something else, like cake or pies. Smith argued that when governments interfere with prices through subsidies or price caps, they break this signaling system. It's like breaking a thermometer and then wondering why you can't tell if the room is hot or cold. Because Smith loved free markets, people often think he wanted no government. That's a myth. Smith believed the government was essential, but it had to stay in its lane. He defined 3 specific duties for the state. National defense. Protecting the society from the violence and invasion of other societies. Administration of justice, protecting every citizen from injustice or oppression by fellow citizens. This means a strong system of property rights and contracts. Public works, building and maintaining institutions like roads, bridges, and canals, things that are great for the whole economy, but wouldn't be profitable for a single business to build. He was also a fierce advocate for free trade. He argued that if France can make wine cheaper than Scotland can, and Scotland can make wool cheaper than France, it is foolish for Scotland to try to make its own wine. By trading, both nations end up with more wine and more wool. Adam Smith wasn't a blind optimist. He warned about the vile maxims of powerful business owners who try to create monopolies. He worried that mind-numbing factory work could make people as stupid and ignorant as it is possible for a human creature to become, which is why he also advocated for public education. Ultimately, the wealth of nations changed the world because it shifted our focus from the state to the individual. It showed us that when humans are free to trade, specialize, and follow their own interests, the result isn't chaos, it's prosperity. 250 years later, we are still living in the world that Adam Smith's invisible hand helped build.